Hello and welcome to the third and the Dawn Football Show. I am Joe. With me is Cecil, as always. Here to talk about the NFL season. It has been a wild ride. We have found out we don't know anything we thought we knew. We're going to recap Week 5, and we're going to preview Week 6. First of all, Cecil, how you doing?
I'm good. Dennis Green was wrong. They are not who we thought they were. But yeah, another fun, exciting week of football. We're at week 6 now. That we are officially pretty much a third of the way through the season. As crazy as that sounds, and we know as little as we did, it seems like week 1. So a lot of football to catch up on and a lot to talk about this week.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it, Cecil. Let's go Thursday Night Football. One of the worst games ever. And it's not teams we thought would have this bad of a game when we started the season, which is kind of the reason why we opened the show the way we did. But the Colts beat the Broncos in overtime, 12-9. I think both teams are very dissatisfied with their quarterback play, whether that's Matt Ryan or Russell Wilson. But I don't want to go too much into detail about these teams because both these teams stink. That's all I got to say. It was the worst football game I've ever seen in my life. And that includes college games, high school games, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yep, the baby horses won. I guess, from the horse showdown. That's always important. So other than that, though, very, 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 very boring game. Russell Wilson looks like he went from being a potential, 5-star chef to down the dumps, working at a McDonald's. I'm trying to think of, it's like a Ratatouille in reverse. That's basically what's happening there. So I don't know what other magical animal might have been operating Russell Wilson before this point, but he needs to find them quickly. The fan base of the Broncos doesn't seem to have any love for him. And I mean, it seems like his teammates are not all in on the whole Russell Wilson is great. It seems like, there's a lot of stuff propping up from Seattle as well, where people are saying, Russ, we won that Super Bowl and it bought some goodwill, but ultimately, the team didn't really like him. It's kind of the Russell Wilson show, and it seemed like he wasn't as genuine as some other teammates are. So a lot to unpack, especially after you invest hundreds of millions of dollars in a guy. So maybe next time, if you're a franchise looking for a quarterback, do your research before you just invest a lot of money. If you're Denver or, the Cleveland Browns as well. Let's be smart with who we're giving hundreds of millions of dollars to. Other than that, the Colts, Matt Ryan, I think Halloween came early because he looks like the living dead out there sometimes in the pocket. So a lot of issues for both these teams, and it was one of the worst games of recent memory. And the Broncos are just rolling with horrible games to watch. They are almost unwatchable football, which is saying something.
And get ready. There's more primetime games coming up for them as the NFL is not scheduled very well. We'd like to see different teams in primetime every once in a while. But here we are. For the Colts, you're 2-1 in that division, the AFC South. You're probably alive, but something's got to change fast if you're gonna be winning that division like you had hopes for. They have turned it on in the past. Jonathan Taylor, if you're a fantasy owner of him, usually starts the season slow, finishes strong. That's what they're hoping for this year. Broncos, it's just bad. This looks like a locker room thing. It looks like a Nathaniel Hackett thing. It just doesn't look like much is going right. So we'll check in on these two teams later on. Just not much going for them right now. Let's go over across the pond to London, Cease. The Giants beat the Packers 27-22. The Packers end up going up in this game early. They score 20 first half points, only get a safety at the very end of the game that was intentional by the Giants at the very end. I think a lot of criticism has come from the Packers of lining up in the same formation, whether mostly shotgun and not going under center and not running the ball, and that's been, I think, well taken. But a lot of credit does need to go to the Giants here. Brian Daboll is still doing a fantastic job with this Giants team. They have Daniel Jones at quarterback. We didn't know if he was going to be great this year. They have a kind of a hodgepodge defense they've added to throughout the years. The draft and everything. They were down so many wide receivers that Darius Slayton went from being a really good receiver for them in the last couple of years, who then was buried on the depth chart, and now he's the number one again. And David Sills is on the field, who was not the greatest option in terms of NFL talent. It's crazy what he's doing with the lack of talent, and it's crazy how he has, in my opinion, done a very good job and is the front runner for Coach of the Year because he is fitting his system to the talent he has on the roster.
Oh, exactly. I was saying the same thing. Brian Dable is, definitely the front runner for head coach of the year, without any doubt in my mind. I mean, you look at this Giants roster. I was going into the season going, gosh, these guys are devoid of talent. They're just really hoping that Saquon comes back healthy. He has, but that's not the only thing that's going right. There's plays where Saquon's not there, and I mean, I've never thought Brian Dable would be able to get this much out of this wide receiver core because you got Kenny Golladay not starting, Kadarius Toney is also not playing. Um, two of your early, you spent a lot of money on Galladay and you spent a high draft pick on Tani. So for both of them not to even be playing really and them to be successful says a lot about what this team is made of right now. Daniel Jones looks like a serviceable quarterback. I'm not going to say he looks great, but, pretty much Brian Dable has just said, we're going to use his legs. And at the end of the day, if he gets beat up, it's not the end of the world for us because we're not long-term necessarily committed to Daniel Jones at this point. So, I mean, I love what he's doing. On the Packers side, it's pretty inexcusable to get up by that much and lose in any league, the NFL or otherwise. They look so out of sync. They're deep throws. They're very few and far between, and when they happen, they're very much out of connection. And, Aaron Rodgers just seems to want to blame all the receivers. Like it's always the receiver's fault the timing's off. It's somebody else is screwing up besides Aaron Rodgers. At a certain part, he's as, accountable for the passing game as all of these receivers are. And, he wants to just say that they're all young and they can't do what he needs them to do. But ultimately, it doesn't seem like he really wants to admit that, he can be a very big part of that. He seems to be acting like he's upset he has to deal with a bunch of rookie receivers, when in reality, you're a veteran. A lot of, quarterbacks have dealt with young wide receivers and have made the most of it and, made a lot happen. So I'm not saying, any of them are Devontae Adams. No one's going to mistake any of them for that. But at this point, I mean, you look at this passing offense, and it's just Aaron Rodgers always seems to be mad at someone instead of ever being like, that was my fault. It's always someone else's fault and all these plays that go wrong. And Matt LaFleur's offense just straight up isn't working right now. They get away from the run, like you said, way too easily, even though they can get a lot of yards on the ground. They seem to always do this. And then they always seem to throw these really short passes that don't really seem to get them very far. So, I mean, there's a lot of work on this Packers team. Are they going to make the playoffs? Most likely. The NFC North looks like right now the Vikings are kind of the front runner. But outside of that, I mean, the wild card's very wide open as well. So, a lot to think about if you're the Packers fans. The Giants are somehow in the thick of the NFC East race. I don't know how long that's going to stay. But ultimately, great win for them across the pond. And the Packers just plain out need to get better, and they need to get better quick.
Oh, absolutely. The expectations before the season were not where they are now, and it is still okay because you're 3-2. But they got to get some things going, as you said. It looks really sloppy out there for them. Next game up, Cease. The Bills are good. The Steelers are bad. The Bills win 38-3. I'm not going to give too much about how awesome the Bills are. We know they're awesome. The Steelers, maybe a little bit worse than we thought, but I think the main takeaway from this game, if you're a Steelers fan, you were already expecting to have a bad season, I would hope, if you have some self-awareness. Kenny Pickett didn't look that bad. He threw for 327 yards. He threw one interception, and that was a whatever. That happens, especially when you're trying to come back from so many points. And he has a terrible offensive line, so he's doing the best he can. And, he's sticking up for himself there. I mean, one of the players tackles him low. He starts a little skirmish. I think if you're a Steelers fan, I think you're happy with Kenny Pickett's start. Not like the most overly happy because he didn't win, but he stuck up for himself. He played decently well, and that has to be noted.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting a lot of yards in this game. That's one of the positive takeaways from it. A lot of yards in the passing game. George Pickens is getting involved a lot, which is great. He's a promising, very young receiver for them. But yeah, I mean, they got blown out, and a lot of that stuff's garbage time. But like we said at the beginning of this year, I mean, Mitch Trubisky, he can start for a couple games, but after that, you got to move on. You got to see what you have with Kenny Pickett. You got to start preparing for the future and figure out whether he's part of that future or not. Because you spend a first-round draft pick on him. Like we out as well. He's not young. He's 5 years in college. Uses red shirt. He's not young. There's no reason why he can't be used to the NFL at this point or be ready for the speed. He doesn't need to sit for a year. But yeah, I mean, ultimately this game turned out a lot the way we thought. Maybe not as to the blowout to this extent, but Bills are rolling, and then the Steelers, they need to get, if anything, they need to get Najee Harris going, because a lot of people were hyped about Najee Harris going into this year, and he has done next to nothing so far this season for them.
Yeah, they've said, Mike Tomlin today in his press conference, that we're getting Jalen Warren the ball more. He's the backup. He's a rookie. He wasn't even a high drafted rookie. They just he's running the ball better than Najee Harris right now, which is weird. But if someone has the hot hand in the NFL, they're not gonna worry about where you were picked. They're just gonna play whoever gets the hot hand. So we'll see what happens with that backfield moving forward. Hopefully for Najee Harris fantasy managers, they can get some help here soon. The Los Angeles Chargers beat the Cleveland Browns 30-28. What this game comes down to is a weird analytics decision. We're used to seeing it from Brandon Staley, but it kind of went awry here. It was 4th and 2. They were in their own territory. They decided to go for it. Everyone, even Keenan Allen, was on Twitter saying, "What are we doing here?" They didn't get it. The Browns get the ball. The defense stops them short, so Cade York, the Browns kicker, has to kick a long field goal to try to win the game. And they end up missing the field goal and losing the game. We've talked about the Browns. They're not a great team without Deshaun Watson yet. We'll see if maybe they can just kind of hang around until he gets back. The Chargers banged up, and they needed this win because they are banged up. But my main point from this game, Cease, Brandon Staley went from last year just going for it at every 4th down, right? That's what he was known for, going for 2, sometimes going for it every 4th down, because he trusted the analytics. And then earlier this year, he said, he's not making all his decisions based on analytics, and he was kind of more reserved. And now in this game, he went for it on 4th and 2 because of analytics. The thing about analytics to me is, if you want to use them as a system, it's much like having an algorithm for betting or something. You could hit on 75% of your bets, but if you don't bet 100% of the on the algorithm, it's going to go, you're not going to hit all 75% of the time. It's almost like one of those things, you have to believe in it and do it, or just go back to the old ways of football and just trust your gut. And there is probably a middle ground where you use analytics for 4th and 2, 4th and 1, but he's just all over the place. He almost cost them this game.
Yeah, you look at this game, and ultimately the other big thing with an algorithm like this is there's no guaranteed success rate, and also the laws of probability. You could get a lot of things unsuccessfully early on. And at that point, the NFL, you don't get much of a shelf life as a head coach if you're not producing results. So it's kind of you have to almost get lucky early on with analytics for you to be able to stick around as a head coach. Because if you don't, and it's the same thing with sabermetrics with the Browns, a couple of years ago, before they managed to basically retake over the Browns organization, Sashi Brown, all those guys. If the sabermetrics, the analytics, if that stuff doesn't work early on, the NFL doesn't care. The NFL doesn't care. Just trust the law of averages, trust the system. They don't care. Owners want to win now. They make they have too much money on their hands, and they bought this team to watch it win something, and they want results. Like I said, I don't think there's a place for analytics in football. I'm not going to say there isn't, but there's a certain point of the eye test that I just go, just no, just please don't do it. It's like in blackjack. There's the 16. It's really your choice. The book says maybe you should probably hit on it, but you don't necessarily have to do that. That's not going to win you. We're talking a 3% edge here. And I think that's what the analytics must tell you about going for 4th and 2 on your, opponent's 45. Because it is such a low success rate. And it just shows and tells me that basically the Chargers had no faith in their defense at that point, or had too much faith in their defense, I should say, I guess, because they were, thinking stop them. But you were watching this game, the Browns were destroying the Chargers on the ground left and right. Nick Chubb was absolutely demolishing them, 10, 15-yard gash plays left and right. Looks like the Chargers just have gotten worse against the run after the big emphasis for them was to stop the run and make their pass rush better. Their defense just straight up looked bad in this game. Justin Herbert's banged up, and Austin Eckler had a heck of a game. There were some good passing plays and some good passing offers to the Chargers, but that defense does not look like this team will make it. If they make it to the playoffs, will make it very far. I think they'll make it because they have Justin Herbert in that offense. But they're not going to make it far with a defense like that. They need to learn how to stop the run. They need to learn to pass rush. I get they have injuries and they got some stuff, especially in the secondary. But man, it was bad. And I just will never, ever, ever understand. If it's 4th and inches, 4th and 1, maybe. But 2 yards might as well be a mile in the NFL. And in a situation like that, if you fail, the game, like if it was Justin Tucker and the Raiders, the game would have probably been over. I mean, Justin Tucker could have kicked it from right there. They would have lost the game. Where you could at least punt it and play some defense. Be smart. Make them go down the field, make them score that field goal. Make them still try to attempt a long field goal, but make them charge down the field. Don't basically give them every opportunity in the world to score, and you have no way of doing anything. I'd much rather die a slow death defending and, doing what I can to limit their offense than just saying here and now, I'm basically going to do this, blitz all, it's like the all blitz in NFL blitz, basically the suicide blitz where every last person on their defense just goes. It's not suggested to happen. It's one of those plays where I just don't understand where you get it. Chargers analytics, they're all well and good for a lot of 4th down plays. I believe in, going for it on 4th a lot past the 50-yard line, or even if you're in no man's land like that, but not in a situation that late in the game where basically you're down by 2, you're up by 2, and you can lose the game off of one play, basically. So, I mean, the Chargers got very lucky here. Let's just put it that way. Brandon Staley got very lucky because you could tell the headline would have been Monday morning if they'd lost that game. The analytics are terrible, and Brandon Staley should be fired. He doesn't know how to handle this Chargers team that could go to a Super Bowl. That would have been the headline. It's still going to be talked about, but right now the Browns messed it up, so he looks a little smarter by comparison. But make no mistake, they keep doing things like this, they will lose some games in the NFL. And this thing with analytics, the analytics doesn't take which games are more important than others, so you never know with the roll of the dice which game you're going to get the outcome and which games you aren't. And sometimes that's going to come up in very costly moments where you're not going to get a do-over. You're not going to get a do-over in the playoffs. You're not going to get that game back. It's win now or go home. And you don't get, another game next week. It's just that simple.
Absolutely, and you're right, Cease. If this was a 7-point game, then maybe you do that. Maybe you trust your defense to hold them. But they were on their own 45. Like the Browns had to get 8 yards to be in field goal range. That changes everything. And even with the rookie kicker's good. I mean, he missed that kick, but he's a good kicker. So way too much risk for me personally. And I don't know. I just think they really could have blew that opportunity to get a big win there. All right, the Bears and Vikings played. Vikings win 29-22 because it was a 1 p.m. game for Kirk Cousins. He played pretty well. Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson both played well, so kind of the big stars on the Vikings offense. We're doing pretty good. The Bears were able to come back a little bit in this game to make it close, and Justin Fields probably had his best game of the year, 15-21 passing. Wasn't the greatest thing, but encouraged if you're a Bears fan, I think, because it was a good effort on the road, and Justin Fields looked good. Vikings, again, 1 p.m. games. We know what we're getting out of Kirk Cousins there.
I know. If they can get in the playoffs and somehow get the early game every week on Sunday, they might have a shot to make it to a Super Bowl, just straight up from 1 p.m. I don't know if it's like the amount of light that his eyes take in, like you said. I don't know if it's like he has some kind of photosynthesis. Maybe he's some kind of plant. I don't know. But it seems to be the amount of sunlight he gets from 1 o'clock to 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoons is just peak for him. Anything more or less, he's off the rails, especially if it's nighttime. Good Lord. But all jokes aside, like you said, Justin Fields looked a little better. I mean, this offense is still kind of a mess if you're the Bears. And the defense, I mean, they can just not let that many big plays happen. I mean, Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins were just destroying them for most of the game. So lots of work on if you're the Bears defense, especially as a team that's supposed to be a very, they're trying to get back to the defense, the old school Bears. Strong running game, strong defense, and that just was not in this game for him.
Yeah, definitely wasn't. Vikings, as you said earlier, Cease, NFC North looking pretty good on that front. They already have the win over Green Bay earlier. 3-0 at home this year. It looks like they might be doing some things. I mean, we don't really know that they're that good, but they look good so far. All right, the Patriots beat the Lions 29-0. Bailey Zappi, first start, first win, looked pretty good doing it. I think he needs to maybe get some extra looks when Mac Jones comes back. Mac Jones was limited in practice this week, so we'll get to that when we get to the pick here soon. Dan Campbell said this was rock bottom for the Lions. They scored 0 points. They didn't look good at all. Everything's falling apart. They've been kind of trying to put everything together with a bunch of injuries on their offense specifically. They're fighting, but it's just it's not a good result for them.
Yeah, good God. I mean, rock bottom can barely describe it. I mean, it seems like they've been scoring so many points on offense that they somehow used up all the points they were able to score and then had nothing left in this game somehow. I get they have a lot of injuries. Amon-Ra St. Brown was very limited with that ankle, it looked like. You've got other weapons. You got DeAndre Swift hurt as well. These are some key injuries, sure, but Lord, 0 points. The Patriots defense is good, but they're not elite. And that you're playing up against a rookie quarterback in his second start ever, his first start ever. He came in last week. There's just no reason to lose a game like that. To lose 29-0 to a rookie quarterback, it's really inexcusable. And the Lions are definitely going to want this one back. And Dan Campbell's definitely got to figure some stuff out and have a come to Jesus moment with whatever's going on with this team, because this is the point of year where some teams pull out, they do better and they get back in conversation for competing for a wild card or something, and there's other teams, man, that just check out. It's 5 games in, you start getting that vibe. You won one early and you've just been on a string of losses and heartbreakers since. You just stop trying, you stop playing hard, and that's when the wheels really come off and these teams start putting together some pretty bad games in a row. So I have confidence in Dan Campbell and the coach he is, and the way his kind of coaching style, that's not what's going to happen. He's not going to let people quit on him. They're going to come out and continue to fight, because if they give up on Dan Campbell, I don't want to say they will, but that's not a good sign in Detroit for his future either if they stop playing for him.
Yeah, that's the one thing he has going for him is just how hard they fight for him. So you're right about that. Definitely monitor that. We'll monitor the quarterback situation for the Patriots, whether Bailey Zappi is the guy going forward, whether Mac Jones is able to play, all that type of stuff. Just a lot of speculation out there, but he did play well in this game, so that needs to be noted. The Saints beat the Seahawks 39-32, and in order to beat the high-flying Seahawks with the league's most efficient passer, Geno Smith, the Saints decided to bring out an old weapon, Taysom Hill. 4 touchdowns. He had 112 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns on the ground. If you know anything about him in fantasy, he's a tight end this year, and a lot of people are happy about that if they played him at tight end this week. But, you're down Jameis Winston, you're down some of your offensive weapons, and you just say, hey, screw it. Let's just go with some wildcat. Let's mess them up with Taysom Hill. Got to be nice to have Taysom Hill as a weapon. We formerly, I think, talked about him not being a quarterback, and that's fine, but in this situation where he's just kind of helping out Andy Dalton as Andy Dalton's the starting quarterback, it worked for a win. I'll give them credit. It definitely worked. They needed a win badly, and without a lot of their key players, this was huge.
Yeah, you need a splash of Taysom Hill. All the criticism we had for Taysom Hill has been he's not a quarterback. He can't play quarterback full time. The team will suffer long term, which we agreed. And the thing we used, using Taysom Hill around the goal line and in sub packages, we're all for. The only time either of us was ever against that was when Drew Brees was on the field. Mm-hmm. You don't take the ball out of Drew Brees' hands. That was the thing. If you're going to have somebody throw, you're going to have Drew Brees throw the ball. But Drew Brees is not there. He's long gone now. And what you got left is, an offense that is struggling to make plays. And, Mike Thomas is still in and out of the injury list. It seems like he's just constantly hurt. Alvin Kamara is banged up as well. So, at this point, you're a coaching staff and trying to do something creative because, your offense just does not have it right now in order to compete. So, they pulled all the Taysom Hill card, and the team, they were playing, the Seahawks were not prepared for it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Taysom Hill bag of tricks goes back in the closet for a while just because, Now that they know and we have tape on it again, the Bengals who are playing them this week are definitely running a couple plays about the Taysom Hill experience. So you can't like an offense like that for a while. Eventually the league will catch up to you. It's the basic Wildcat offense, and if you practice for it all week, enough players and enough coaches have seen it now. It's not 2009 when the Dolphins did it. You can play against it pretty well. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints try to get away from that a little bit more. Because in this game, I feel like if they try to replicate what happened here, they're going to make a lot more mistakes because, let's be honest, the Bengals defense looks a lot better than the Seahawks defense has for the last 2 weeks. So, good for them being creative, constructive. It sucks that Rashad Penny's out for the year probably. It's confirmed. It's 4-month recovery time for Rashad Penny. Kenneth Walker will now be the running back for them. How will the usage be? A lot of people are saying they're going to use him as a bell cow back as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if they mix in DJ Dallas a bit more. And Geno Smith is looked absolutely fantastic. I can't believe I would say that. I don't know what's happening. I think maybe a lot of it has to do with they're just so effective in the run game and doing that kind of run option, doing that play action. It's really helping Geno Smith become the quarterback that some people hoped he would be out of college. Again, you put him on a team where Geno Smith really has to be the focal point. I think he fails. But you're on a team with pretty low expectations, the Seahawks, and he's been able to thrive. So, great for him. And honestly, he might, by the end of the season, revive his entire career.
Yeah, he might be comeback player of the year by the time it's all said and done. I think it speaks to, he didn't have a great early start to his career, but he wasn't necessarily in the best situation in New York. And honestly, I think he grew up a lot. He then went to back up Eli Manning and then Russell Wilson and just kind of sat back and learned, and now he's matured and he's looking great. I think it's great to see for the sport. He was so fun to watch at West Virginia back in his college days. I'm glad he's having some success now. All right, the Jets beat the Dolphins, Cease. They went pretty big, 40-17. I think this one comes down to the quarterback issues. Teddy Bridgewater goes down with a concussion. Turns out, he wasn't really concussed. They just saw him stumbling on the field, which is the new NFL protocol, which I do not like because anyone can stumble for any reason. He cleared all concussion tests whatsoever, but it figures the Dolphins are the teams that has the first quarterback to go down and kind of have to go through this. Oh, a spotter saw him stumbling after he got hit when, again, he passed all the tests and it looked like he was just, he just got hit. He's just getting up and stumbling a little bit. So that's a different topic, but the Jets win. They get, going 3-2 has got to feel good for them. The Dolphins, I'm not reading into this at all. They played Skylar Thompson at quarterback, who was a 6th or 7th round pick out of Kansas State, who's had impressive preseason, but you can't expect to win a game like that with Teddy going down so early in the game.
Yeah, you get your third-string rookie quarterback in there, it's not going to be a good result, especially if he's thrown in a couple plays in the game because Teddy Bridgewater also gets a head injury. Mm-hmm. And, the Dolphins are having horrible luck with quarterbacks and concussions right now. And, even if he had passed a concussion test, even if they hadn't made that an official rule, I don't know if the Dolphins would have put Teddy Bridgewater back in because, to be honest, the optics of it would have been pretty bad just because it literally something of a similar nature just happened to Tua. Obviously, he was concussed, and there were a lot of safety nets that were broken, and they kind of fell through, and it all went to hell for him really quickly. But it's just kind of a awkward spot to be in after having all this, since the Thursday night game. It was a nonstop train about, the Dolphins protecting their players, what's the NFL doing? And then 5 minutes into your game next week, you're back up and saying, similar head injury happens to him. So I do not envy being the Dolphins. They did finally decide that probably Raheem Mostert is going to be their best bet at running back, so that's good for them. But like you said, I'm not going to read too much into it for them. The Jets, they're 3-2. That's awesome. One of the best starts, in a while for them. I think since Rex Ryan, that Mark Sanchez era, when they got off to some good starts in the AFC Championship game. So, hats off to them. I hope they continue to perform well. Their young running back also did very well. Someone I may or may not want to trade for in fantasy that I am no longer allowed to touch because he had such a good game. But other than that, I mean, I like what the Jets are doing overall. I mean, they're playing good on offense. They're scoring points when they need to. They have a strong running game, and then the defense is underrated. Sauce Gardner is having a rookie of the year type campaign. So great for them, and I can't wait to see what the Jets have in store next.
Cecil, you could still trade for Brees Hall. It's just the price went up.
Yeah, that's the thing about any trades in the world, whether it be stocks or players. You don't trade overtrade at its highest point, right? It's called being over leveraged for all those stock guys listening to this podcast. I'm
Uh,
not going to over leverage myself. Don't over leverage yourself in fantasy football, especially for a rookie running back who doesn't get goal line carries because Michael Carter takes them. So
oh my God, get out of here. He's just
it's right there. It's right in that game. The
he,
proof is in the pudding.
Brees Hall's gotten better every week, and you know it. You could have him. It's just the price has gone up. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, actually, you probably can't have him because Rashad Penny got hurt for the season, and that's killing me. But
You heard it here. He just changed the flip flopper.
yeah. All right, one thing we're not flip flopping on, Cease. The Buccaneers still don't look good. They won 21-15. The Falcons got a backdoor cover, which was much to my delight. But they look bad, and it's the same thing we've been saying for weeks. So I don't have anything more to add on to it. It's just they look like they're kind of going to have to grind out games this year, and that's not something we're used to seeing from them, especially against a team like the Falcons who are rebuild. They're scrappy, but they're rebuilding.
Yeah, they also didn't have Kyle Pitts, or I don't think they had Drake London in this game either, or Cordell Patterson. So a lot of key pieces were missing for the Falcons as well in this game. Not to say the Buccaneers are in perfect health or anything, but yeah, I mean the Buccaneers and the Packers, we keep talking about both of them not as good as the expectations were, and the expectations we said were a little wacko from the get-go. So yeah, it's just one of those games for them. There's a very controversial roughing the passer play. When the Falcons were stopping and trying to pretty much get one more opportunity to win the game. Are they going to succeed? I don't know, but it's 15-21. They get the 2-point conversion. It's looking like there might be some late magic, and then the refs just call it's very arbitrary. It shouldn't have been called. If it's another quarterback, I don't think they get that call. And that's one of the big problems, with the reffing in this league a lot of times. And two, it's one of the problems with the whole Tom Brady is it's like he's a, living statue or something to these people. Like he can't get hurt. It'll ruin the league's morale. So we've got to, ref around him. But the reality is, the man's 45 years old, probably shouldn't be playing in the NFL if he's worried about getting hurt. That's one of the risks. That's why a lot of guys aren't playing to that age. So he shouldn't get preferential treatment because he's old. He knows the risk when he goes in there, and he should assume the same risk as every other quarterback that steps back in that pocket.
Absolutely, Cease. Did not like that call one bit. We were watching the games together at that point, I think, and it was just kind of a like, what the hell's going on here type of vibe. And if we didn't like that call, we're sure as the hell not going to like the call we're going to talk about later when we start recapping these games. That was even worse, in my opinion, in just a different way. But yeah, the Bucs win. They're just not that great this year. We'll find out if they can turn it on and get something going here. We'll move on to the Titans beating the Washington Commanders 21-17. As we kind of said, they're going to want to get the ball early. They're going to want to score early, get the lead, kill the clock. They gave Derrick Henry 28 carries for 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's kind of what they did. Washington had a chance to win at the end. Carson Wentz made a critical mistake throwing an interception down in the red zone with a chance to go ahead in this game and win it. It's kind of the same old for Carson Wentz. He actually played really well in this game, just made the critical mistake, which is why, honestly, the Colts got rid of him too. Is like he'd have some good games and everything, but he made the critical mistake way too often. He did that in this game, and that's what cost the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you look at this game, it was please just feed Derrick Henry, and the Titans finally started doing that a lot more. I've been begging them to do it as a Derrick Henry fantasy owner, just as a general purveyor of football, and watching and knowing what the strength of this team is to run the ball with Derrick Henry, love of God. They finally did it. They had a lot of success doing it, and the defense was able to come up because Carson Wentz continues to be Carson Wentz, where he's going to throw 4 touchdowns. He's going to throw 3 interceptions, and you're just going to have to make the up as it goes. But ultimately, can we talk about that post game conference with Ron Rivera over there? Because Riverboat Ron just straight up said when a reporter asked, "What's the problem with your team?" He literally said the quarterback, and then tried to basically slowly backtrack on what he said. But I've never seen such an amazingly honest answer of just calling somebody out in my life. It's like Carson Wentz has become NFL kryptonite. Like nobody wants him. No, everyone's frustrated with him. It's kind of weird what has happened to this man. This man went from league MVP, to leading a team who then won a Super Bowl to basically being a guy that your head coach in a live press conference is just saying you're the league on this team. That's pretty rough to hear, especially in the national media. I mean, I'm sure that's heard in house. I'm sure a lot, but for him to just straight up be like, yeah, other teams have good quarterbacks they're able to build around, and we basically Carson Wentz. It's not the way you want to inspire a season. And I have a feeling Riverboat Ron's gonna be on the hot seat. If he's not already, he definitely is, because now it's getting dicey when you start blaming your quarterback for your losses.
Yeah, especially when the defense, what he's supposed to be known for, is pretty bad. Doesn't want to tackle anyone at different times, and it's been bad for the last 2 years. For a defensive-minded coach to call it the quarterback when the defense isn't playing well, that doesn't sit right with me. And this specific question was, what's the difference between you and the other teams in the divisions, right? The quarterback? Okay, well, Jalen Hurts, there was a huge question mark around him before the season started. Is he the guy? He's answered it. He's the guy for them, at least for the foreseeable future. He's looking really good. Daniel Jones. I mean, he's playing well right now. Are we going to say that the quarterback situation before the season was that much better than the Commanders' quarterback situation? No, they've just played well. Brian Daboll's a good coach who's getting the most out of them. And the Cowboys are 3-1 with Cooper Rush. I mean, come on. You cannot sit there and say the quarterback's the issue when asked specifically and then go with that. It's just crazy. The Cowboys are 4-1 now, too. So three wins in the last couple of weeks that have been kind of surprising, but they're 4-1, and that's your thing. You want to say the quarterback's the problem. He's itching to get fired saying that stuff. The team's not going to believe in him much longer. All right, Houston Texans beat the Jaguars 13-6. Another boring game. 2 points for me, Cease, before I move on and hand it over to you. Dameon Pierce is breaking tackles crazily, and he had an awesome run on this game that was just breaking tackles everywhere. Kind of why a lot of people liked him. He's an angry runner and kind of showed that on his college tape. And 2, Trevor Lawrence's stats are worse than Gardner Minshew's, and he has played one more game than Gardner Minshew. I think it's time we bring back Minshew Mania somewhere. I don't care where he gets a chance to play, but just crazy that Gardner Minshew's got moved away for Trevor Lawrence, and now he's the backup to Jalen Hurts, but kind of buried on the depth chart now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Minshew's still on the Eagles. God bless his soul, his mustache growing, jorts wearing soul. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna take it as far as you have. I get they've now played an equal amount of games, and Minshew's numbers are far better. And I'm not gonna make excuses for him. I'm not gonna just say Urban Meyer was there, but I think the ceiling for Trevor Lawrence is higher than Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew, I think, shows more poise, leadership ability, and is just more of a fun locker room guy to be around. I think Trevor Lawrence has all the talent in the world, but I don't think he's really that fun to be around. I don't think the guy's really. I'm not going to say they don't want to play for him, but I don't think he's one of those guys that they're like, I love playing for Trevor Lawrence. I think everyone just knows Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be really good, and I will play with him for that reason. But, I mean, the passing game looked really out of sync. Jaguars really need to pick a running back they want to go with, because it seems like they're just using them, and neither of them are really getting into that much of a rhythm. Travis at the end got more yards this game, but ultimately, James Robinson's a guy that needs volume to get going. You don't give him that volume, he's probably not going to get going. So, I mean, you either got to do one or the other with running backs like that. You need to give James Robinson the ball 25 times a game and commit to that, and use Travis Etienne and passes and, as a change of pace back, or you got to basically figure this thing out. Like, it's just that simple. I don't know if they're going to, but between that and the passing game and then the defense, just could not tackle Damian Pierce to save their lives. So it was an abject failure. Jaguars are still alive for the AFC South because everyone else is bad, but Titans are definitely, as of this week, because it seems to update every week if you're following this podcast, the AFC South front runner is now the Tennessee Titans. After that, who cares? All the teams. I need to see something. Are the Jaguars out of it? No, I don't think that. I'm not saying that at all. They very well could win, go back to what they were doing early in the season, win some games. They play the Colts again this week, so for some reason the Colts can't beat the Jaguars, so maybe the Colts will lose by 20 points again. But it's the Titans are in the best position right now. They've won the games they need to. Colts are spiraling. Jaguars are a young team that still have a lot to learn about playing in the NFL and playing consistently. And then the Texans are a scrappy team that is devoid of a lot of talent. So they are not going to make much noise. You can just count on them playing hard, and if you're not ready to play, they could surprise you and it could be in a dogfight in a game you have no business losing.
Absolutely. They played hard last year. They're playing hard this year. That's what their best credit is. I will say I still like Trevor Lawrence. I think it's funny that Gardner Minshew's on a bench somewhere. I think he should be getting a chance to start on maybe one of these lower level teams like cough cough Carolina, which we are going to talk about now. 49ers beat Carolina Panthers 37-15. We basically told people to run the casino with this one. The 49ers are going to win and cover. The Panthers look really bad. The result, I don't have any takeaways from the 49ers, right? Like they're the 49ers. They're more talented team. If you want to say something about the 49ers, George Kittle's not getting involved. That's fine. He's blocking well. The Panthers decided to fire Matt Rule. I think it's kind of something you shouldn't do this early in the season. I know the Panthers wanted to give the appearance that they want to win this year, but they don't want to win. They want to have a quarterback for the future. They want to have the next guy. I think firing Matt Rule now kind of maybe the team gets a spark and wins a game or two, because that's what always happens. It doesn't matter NFL or college. It always happens where you fire a coach and the team will come out more inspired the next week or whatever. Hold on to him for a couple weeks, get the number one pick, get C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young so you can fix the current problem, which is you haven't had a quarterback since Cam Newton. So that's my take on the situation.
Yeah, should Matt Rule kept his job? No, but like you said, honestly, just let the mediocrity keep flowing until the right point. But yeah, the Panthers suck. The roster really isn't worth that much. You've got some young players. You got Christian McCaffrey, obviously, which there's some crazy rumors for him to go to the Bears, which if the Panthers do that, I think they're really stupid. You got DJ Moore over there. You've got some early, picks that they've drafted on the defensive side of the ball as well. And honestly, you got Brian Burns, who is probably their one very valuable trade piece that they should trade to a contender immediately, and just see what they can get. Because honestly, there's a lot of teams that are in the nowhere zone that could really use an extra pass rusher, and Brian Burns is that. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. He's not bad against the run either. So overall, great player, should be a great trade piece for somebody if the Panthers aren't stupid and hold on to him for no reason. But yeah, we said this was a lock game. The 49ers trashed them, and the Panthers need to just start just blowing games now. Like just lose them. It's gonna suck if you're a Carolina fan, but ultimately, I've been through it. It's worth it to get an elite quarterback in the NFL draft. It's worth your 1 year of pain. Honestly, you get your Sundays back. You don't have to sit there, focus on the game, and just scream at the television going, why am I such an idiot for watching this for 4 hours? It's honestly soothing. I got a lot of lawn work done in that year. I think I read a book. There's a lot you can do when your team's terrible. You have a lot more free time. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck in the zone of mediocrity where you'll continue to scream at your television for the next decade because you didn't get a good quarterback and the team is just good enough to be on the edge of the playoff conversation and then basically barely do anything anytime they get there.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think the mediocre teams, the teams who win 5 or 6 games, 7, even some 7 games, I would say, are sometimes in a worse spot than the teams who can actually rebuild, and that's kind of what my point was. But I don't know, the Steelers got Kenny Pickett this year because they weren't bad enough to get a better quarterback, and is that going to be the long-term answer? I don't know. I really don't. All right, the Eagles beat the Cardinals 20-17. They kind of just hang on to win this game. They got up early and just hung on. Jalen Hurts ran the ball for 2 touchdowns. He found Dallas Goedert a lot in this game. Not like overly impressed with the Eagles. They did go on the road and get the win. That's the most important thing. The Cardinals have just looked bad all year, and they're 0-3 at home, if you can believe that. So, I don't know. Eagles, 5-0. What are the quality of teams they've beaten? I'm not really sure yet. They're on a good track, and that's really cool. The Cardinals, I'm thinking outside looking in on playoffs. I'm thinking this is not a good situation. A lot of stuff going on with them, whether it's Kyler Murray's Call of Duty stuff and Kyler Murray playing bad and kind of arguing with Cliff Kingsbury, or J.J. Watt playing a couple days after getting his heart shocked back into rhythm. There's a lot of things going on here for Arizona.
Yeah, this team is definitely one of the more disappointing ones so far. I mean, you can't go 0-3 at home, especially when you're nowhere near another NFL city. Usually, you have a pretty good home field advantage when people have to go to Arizona to play you. But it really hasn't affected them. They played better in this game, but still, I mean, Jalen Hurts, they got up early and, they really just coasted the rest of the game. They didn't really have to do too much. They just, Jalen Hurts would scramble, get some key first downs, and that was really all she wrote because, I mean, the Cardinals offense just didn't do much. James Conner got hurt again. I mean, at this point, I think the Cardinals' whole plan is just hoping to God that DeAndre Hopkins is ready and up to speed to start playing when his suspension's over. I think that's literally it because I don't think that's a great plan by any means, but that seems to be the only answer they seem to think they have is, once DeAndre Hopkins goes, our offense is going to look great again. It's like, hey, guy sits out a good amount of the season. It takes a little time to get acclimated. Now you have another receiver over there. How is everyone going to mesh in this offense together, after you've already been playing a couple games without him? So a lot to be seen. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a boost ultimately. Not going to say he's not, but I don't think you bank all your success or, you basically think all of your problems are because DeAndre Hopkins is on or off the field, because it's not. There's a lot of things with the defense that are concerning. They have a decent secondary. They spent a lot of picks on the linebacker core. Obviously they have Isaiah Simmons who's starting to play a little bit more and playing a little better, so that's nice. But other than that, I mean, the Cardinals they're disappointing and they really have no shot, it looks like, at the NFC West, and then the wild card. With the way the other teams are playing, I just don't see them. The door is shutting quick if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan.
Yeah, tons of stuff going on, and I'm with you. I think if they're usually the team that starts hot and then kind of fades, and if they don't have the starting hot, then I don't know what they are. All right, next one up, we have the Cowboys beating the Rams 22-10. Cecil, you and I both called this one in an upset. Didn't expect them to win by that much, but they block a punt. Cooper Rush plays okay. The defense is extraordinary, one of the best in the league. They have not given up more than 20 points in a game this season. Just a lot of credit to that defense. Cooper Rush is holding the fort. Dak Prescott is going to be out this week as well, it looks like, and then we'll see what happens in the future. The Rams still look pretty bad. Offensively, it's still Cooper Kupp or bust, and the running game can't get going. The offensive line isn't great. The defense, I do think the defense does their best, and I think it's just like trying to hold on while their offense tries to figure it out. But this is a shell of the former Super Bowl team, and they got beat by a team that, even with that defense, they probably should have beat if they want to be Super Bowl contenders this year.
Right, and I think there's a lot of stuff going on in this game ultimately. I mean, like you said, the Rams offense has not been there. A big part of that is the offensive line. You have 3 new guys. Honestly, probably your 3 best starters are gone. Obviously Andrew Whitworth retired. Austin Corbett went in free agency, and so did Brian Allen, their center. So all their best offensive linemen, by my estimates, are gone. So that's hard to replace one, much less 3. And one of them's a future Hall of Fame tackle. So that's huge. So Matt Stafford does not look great. He doesn't look healthy. He doesn't look like he's putting that much zip on the ball, and he's getting thrown around like a rag doll out back there too. So I mean, he got hurt a lot at the end of that game. The running game does not exist. Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, whoever you put back there, they don't seem to have any answers for anything besides trying to get Cooper Kupp involved in the offense, and then a couple of times we throw to Tyler Higbee, and that's it. That's their whole offense is Cooper Kupp the ball, and we'll figure out the rest. And it's great, get the ball to your playmaker. That's a huge thing in the NFL. It shouldn't be overlooked, but that's all they can do on offense, and that's not a good sign for an offense if you can literally only do one thing. Sure, it's great. Sure, it worked out a lot last year, but ultimately, you don't have any other options. You don't have OBJ. You don't have Robert Woods. You don't have all these other guys that, while people were so focused on Cooper Kupp, you can go throw and make some big plays on. They need to get better at that. And, the defense is playing okay. Jalen Ramsey's been up and down. And then Aaron Donald is there, but, he's not been the dominant force that he's usually been over the years so far this season. I haven't seen him just blow plays, making his name notice and basically taking over, on the defensive side of the ball and getting that push. I mean, he's still doing very good, but it's just not at the level that, Aaron Donald is. Aaron Donald, the best player in the NFL for the last 5 years. He's just not playing at anywhere near that level. He's still very good. I'd still take him on any team. But I mean, there's just a lot of the Super Bowl hangovers happening to the Rams, and it is not good. The Cowboys are for real. They are the real deal. That defense is elite, best in the league at this point. And I mean, they can make some noise if they keep it together and Mike McCarthy doesn't screw it up. That's the only thing I'm starting to think with this team that really can go wrong is if they get a little too crazy with once they switch back to Dak and, they play a little less conservative. That could backfire a little bit. This team is great. The defense is going to carry you. You got two good running backs. Let that be the way you dictate this game. Don't, try to get crazy with the passing. It should be good. But your bread and butter is going to be the defense this year. And, you need to win and manage the game if you're Dak Prescott. You don't need to put up crazy stats like you were before. Don't rush yourself back from injury. Don't do more than you need to. Take care of your quarterback and get ready for the the playoff conversation, that hunt later in the season, because that's when you're going to want people to be healthy. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, they've looked immaculate. Cooper Rush has played very well, and they seem to be the real deal. And I mean, I would have never thought this in a million years. I knew Micah Parsons was great. But they lost Randy Gregory. I was like, how's their pass rush going to look without a second option? Trayvon Diggs gets a lot of picks, but he also whiffs on a lot of plays. How's that going to play out? There were a million questions, and, they really answered them. And that pass is unstoppable right now. Not as good against the run, but when it comes to the pass rush, quarterbacks are afraid for their lives. And when you do something that great, that's a playoff team right there. I always say, playoff teams – don't do a lot of things okay, because a lot of NFL teams can do a lot of things okay to good. But if you can do something elite, even if it's just one thing, like passing game, your running game, rushing the passer, you can make the playoffs on pretty much just that, because there's just so many teams out there that just cannot handle when someone is just really good at one thing. Cowboys are good at pretty much a lot of things on defense, but there's one thing they are just unstoppable. It is that pass rush with Micah Parsons.
Absolutely, Cease. I think I said it last week or the week before. It's not going to be a long time before we're talking about him being the best player in the league. He is impacting the game every single week. This defense is pretty great. I think they're a lot worse without him out there, and we'll see if he ever gets hurt, how that reacts. But I think he is doing a phenomenal job. It was a great pick by Jerry. Give him credit when it's due, because I give him all the hate when it's not there. But I'm excited to see what this defense can do. I'm excited to see what Dak can do, and for him, you're right. Ball security is job security for Dak at this point. You just got to keep it moving, keep the chains moving, and let the defense get some rest, and you'll be fine. All right, the game we don't want to talk about, Cease, the Bengals and Ravens. The mismanagement of this game is kind of all over the place, but we'll get down, I guess, to the very end. The Bengals get the ball back, I should say, with about 9 minutes left, and they take about 7 minutes to score. They score in the first play after the 2-minute warning, so like a minute 58 left. They go up 17-16 on the Ravens. They started slow, so they needed to kind of pick it up in the second quarter on. But they wasted all that time. They should have tried to score early, or tried to score a little bit later. I know that's tough, especially when you're near the goal line to try to like kill time, but they took like the longest drive ever, and it got down to 2 minutes, and Lamar Jackson took the ball and got him down the field. Justin Tucker hit the field goal. Justin Tucker, I had all the faith in the world he was going to make that field goal because I think he's as good at his job as anyone else in the world. And the Ravens win 19-17. So the clock mismanagement is number one. But the bigger thing that we're going to talk about moving forward is the play calling for the Bengals was awful. There's Joe Mixon's giving a tell whether it's a run or pass play on every play. That's an issue too. But they're doing very obvious things. They're not changing anything up. Joe Burrow had his shortest yards per attempt in his career, and the Ravens are playing deeper. But you have to find ways to get players open. If you've seen Jamar Chase's route tree that you've seen online, probably it's not very diversified. This is very, very bad offensive play calling. They rank 30th in the league in yards per play. It's getting to the point where, yes, play calling duties needs to be stripped from Zach Taylor. And if they don't do that, something has to change with this team because the defense is great and that's fine, but you are not going to make the playoffs if you average if you rank 30th in yards per play. It's just not going to happen.
No, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the offense, the running game got better in this game, but I think a lot of that's a combination of this. Ravens were just playing deep the whole time. It's easy to run when you have light boxes. It's something Joe Mixon struggled with. I think a couple of days of rest helped him get a little bit more speed and, cutting ability that he hasn't shown, and he wasn't running into his own lineman. So that's good news. That's pretty much the only good news. I guess Hayden Hurst also has looked pretty good over the last couple games for the Bengals. Other than that, I mean, T. Higgins goes down, and you've got no answers. I mean, Jamar Chase is covered. Your only real ability to get Jamar Chase going is like these weird get him in the backfield and, snap him the ball there or have him do some kind of sweep. I'm all for that once or twice, but it seems like that's your answer to everything is just to give up putting him as a deep threat. Like, let him keep running out there deep. I mean, eventually, they might get greedy, and that's when you make the big play. You start eliminating him and taking him out of that, I mean, the defense is just going to sit there, especially with T. Higgins out, and go, okay, so clearly this isn't probably going to be a deep pass. Even if it is Mike Thomas, I'm really not that worried about. Tyler Boyd's going to play in the slot. They're not going to send him on a deep route. And that's pretty much makes it all very predictable. They have about one play and one route designed to beat a cover two shell, a soft zone. They have one person it can go to that can beat that play, and everybody on earth is picked up on it at this point. They literally have no other options. They don't have a different play to do. It's just this is our only way. If you're playing soft cover two, this is the one person we can throw the ball to that makes any sense, that is a positive play. And it's horrible. It's bad. It's bad calling in that way. Are they going to figure it out? I don't know. I hope so. I mean, I don't understand what happened to the team from last year. I get they're playing more cover two, but it just seems like the offense doesn't have any ability to truly really capitalize on some of the strength and talent they have. Sure, T. Higgins is hurt. The defense still played very well. Obviously, they contained Lamar for a good amount. They couldn't stand up on that last drive, but I'm upset about the play calling. I'm not upset that they went for it. You're on the road. It's 4th and 2. Worst case, you lose. You get field position. I know you disagree with me on this. I'm not against the thinking. I'm not going to be there. And, hindsight's 20/20 to lose the game by, that pretty much, they could have won the game if they had gotten that field goal. It would have changed everything. I understand all that. My bigger issue is the play they ran was one that looked like it was barely ever practiced. It only had one option, which was the shuffle pass right into the slot that clearly was forming that probably shouldn't have gotten thrown. There's just so many other plays you could run at that point, 4th and 2. Joe Burrow has mobility he can use. Just do something else. I mean, anything. Use a play, spread out the field, let Joe Burrow run for 2 yards, if that's the case. Don't play this weird play that people were not ready for. That's what angers me. And even if, the 4th down play, it looked like it was well executed and they just didn't get a hold of it, I'd be okay. But it was just a horrible play. And then just the thinking behind the last drive. It's great. I'm glad they came away with points, put themselves in a place to win the game. But we were sitting there watching the game, talking about the Bengals just going. I mean, they need to go for a deep shot here to leave, 4 or 5 minutes on the clock. They have all their timeouts. They'll get the ball back if they score, and they'll be in the position to win this game. But they did the exact opposite, where they pretty much waited till the 2-minute warning. We're at the goal line and scored on the first play. I was even talking to the Ravens to let them score that just so you can get the ball and kick a game-winning field goal with Tucker. If anything, if I were the Bengals, maybe on that second down play, I just try to fall down at the inch line again and make them use a timeout. Do something that can ultimately cause this game to not end in a way where your offense is helpless on that side of the field against a dual threat quarterback, which when you're in 2-minute drills, a quarterback that's able to run like that is killer. It just simply is. You're watching garbage time, watching 2-minute drills all the time. The defense is tired. They're spread out to try not to give up these big plays. And there's infinite running room for quarterbacks. And with a guy that fast that can make plays like that, I mean, they can make up a lot of yards quick. And it showed. And ultimately, if there's one thing I'm going to say that cost them this game, it was just this being unable to be situationally aware of the kind of football game you're in, the team you're playing against, and to just decide, I'm going to score a touchdown, go up by 1 with 2 minutes left. Inside 2 minutes, the 2-minute warning is gone, and just hope my defense is able to keep Lamar Jackson, who's in an MVP talks, from getting 30 yards for the best kicker in the NFL, who could probably kick it from 65 yards and make it. And it wouldn't be a super, it'd be a 50-50 percentage, honestly. So just horrible situational awareness that Zach Taylor, frankly, just needs to be better at, or he needs to have someone else make these calls. Because, I'm not going to sit here and let the talent on the team be wasted by a guy who doesn't seem to get basic time management and situational football.
Yeah, you're right. I disagree with you on 4th and 2. I think points came at a premium in this game, and you got to take them. Just one of those things. I do like the aggressiveness, at least to try something. Zach Taylor's not the most aggressive guy. It doesn't seem like, so I guess in that regard, I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. But the frustrating thing with the Bengals is kind of the issues are the same thing as always, right? The play calling is still an issue from last year. We mentioned that last year plenty of times, even before the Super Bowl run. Before the season, we mentioned, left guard might be something you want to look at and bring back Quentin Spain or do something. Cordell Volson is the lowest graded player on the offensive line. The offensive line started off really sloppy and has gotten better. That could be something they improve the team with. Maybe a 4th wide receiver we've been talking about a while, whether that's getting some veteran off the street, whether it's OBJ or T.Y. Hilton or whoever, getting someone who can provide some value may have helped. Or maybe using your draft picks on players who actually are going to play and impact this team could have helped, because they drafted Dax Hill in the first round. He's not playing many snaps. There's a lot of frustrating things with this Bengals team. I get what they're trying to set up long term, but when you have a Super Bowl window open, which it opened last year, you got to attack it, and they are not attacking it, whether you look at it from any which way, whether that's game management, play calling, roster management. They've done a good job building the roster. They've done a good job building the locker room, but those other things need to improve definitely if the Bengals want to get back to the Super Bowl. All right, the last game we'll recap for the week. The Chiefs beat the Raiders 30-29. Looked like the Raiders were going to win this game. They jumped off to an early lead, but the Chiefs come back. Travis Kelce has 4 touchdown catches, only 20-something yards, so he had like 26, 28 fantasy points, something like that, but he probably helped you if you have him in fantasy football. I think the 2 points to take away from this game, other than the fact that the Chiefs win at home, that's good. The Raiders lost, they're 1-4, that's whatever. The roughing the passer call in this game was also awful, Cecil. When Derek Carr went down and fumbled and the ball went out and he went to pick up the ball, they called roughing the passer. And it's just like he didn't have possession of the ball. And, the rule says that, I guess it's a pocket posture thing. But, what are we doing here? We got to get, fucking flags going on or something. I mean, at this point, it's terrible for the quarterbacks to have this going on. And then after the game in frustration, Devontae Adams pushes a camera person walking by, and now he's being sued or at least there's a police report filed against him. So we'll see what comes of that. But that obviously drew some criticism because he was just frustrated and only had 3 receptions. 2 of them went for touchdowns, but just 2 different points there that kind of overtook the whole game here. The whole story of the game were those 2 points.
Yeah, and honestly, we're getting to the point with these calls. It's like, why don't we just start playing 7-on-7 if that's the way they want it? I mean, that's just straight up what they want. I mean, they don't want anyone hitting their quarterback. They don't want the defense to really limit an offense. They want to keep making it harder for a defense to play against a good, high-powered offense. I mean, they just make it harder every year. You can't touch the quarterback at this point. I mean, I don't know how much, you look at this play, you look at the Brady play. I don't know how much more a defensive lineman can do to not sack a guy. And you think about it, a lot of these quarterbacks are getting a lot more mobile than they used to be. Obviously, Lamar Jackson doesn't get the same calls. I think because of that, how fair that is, I don't think it is fair at all. But ultimately, I mean, a lot of these guys are going to get harder to sack. So it's going to become a question of how much can I hold up from sacking a guy and also get him to the ground and not have to worry about a penalty. There's plenty of violent plays we can all agree on. Our personal fouls shouldn't be done. You can't do that. But, I mean, these two are huge game-changing plays that are, by almost every instance of the rule, not penalties. Not even it's not even in the gray area. It is so far obvious that it's not. And then it's in such a big situation as a ref, you just straight up can't call that. If you're sitting there going, I don't know, pick up the flag. Just pick it up. I've watched them pick up the flag plenty of times this year. It's been a lot of conferencing, which honestly I think is better. I'd rather them conference and get the play call right than some guy just being like, yeah, I think that's what I saw. Let's do it. But it seems like on these key plays, especially when it comes to roughing the passer, these should be no calls. Mm-hmm. And there's more times where I see things where people are touching the quarterback after the play that I'd be more okay with the refs throwing the flag, because I see times where the defensive linemen, on all across the NFL, get close to the quarterback and start doing some hand things, start doing things when the camera's starting to pan that they shouldn't be. And that's the stuff I think the refs should be more in tune with, throwing roughing the pass or unnecessary roughness stuff if they want to protect the quarterbacks, because that's where a lot of that stuff's going to go down. So ultimately, bad play. I mean, Josh Jacobs looked like a man possessed out there. I mean, the Raiders gave him the rock. I mean, he looked great. Davante Adams had 2 huge catches, only had 3 catches on the night, but 2 of them were doozies and long touchdown passes. So obviously, they'd like to get more receptions to him. I don't understand how the Chiefs keep letting players just get these gigantic passes on them. Davante Adams now, Jamar Chase last year. It's a pattern. It's definitely a pattern for that secondary. I don't know if they just refuse to cover 2 or what goes on back there. But, yeah, when it comes to the Davante Adams thing, there's no excuse for doing that. I mean, the media is there. They're just doing – he was literally just passing by him doing his job. He's clearly part of the field crew. I mean, these guys are out in all the conditions, try to, just telecast the game that he gets his face in and makes millions and millions of dollars because of. Without all these people on the sidelines doing their jobs, putting together these productions for everybody to watch at home for millions of people, no one would care. No one would be able to watch the games. Davante Adams wouldn't have the fame or the money that he has. So for him to be frustrated with what happened on losing a close game, and then literally some guy just cutting by him, not looking at him, not saying anything, just happens to walk by him like he probably does a million times a game, a million times a year. And Davante Adams decided to take all of his frustration out on one guy. And it's unexcusable. I wouldn't be surprised if suspension, fines, all those things, because honestly, first thing he should have done is apologize. I mean, just the way he just kind of threw him down and was ready to just fight anybody for no reason. The guy is not a fan of the other team booing you. He is literally a man walking by doing his job. It's inexcusable. I don't know how they're going to punish it in the NFL. There's not really much like this. There's not much precedent of NFL player basically taking it out on a field technician, but definitely not a good look for Davante Adams. And, this Raiders team is at a boiling point.
Yeah, and that might just be what happens when you hire Josh McDaniels as your head coach, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. We'll see what happens with that. Cecil, let's move on to week 6. So there are the Lions, Titans, Raiders, and Texans on bye this week, so 2 less games to be played. And if you thought last Thursday night's game was awful, get ready for this Thursday night matchup. We have the Washington Commanders at the Chicago Bears. The Bears will be wearing their orange helmets with their orange jerseys. It'll be something to see. The line is even on this one, Cease.
Um, give me give me the Commanders to win and give me them to the points cover. There's really nothing. There is no point spread. So yeah, Commanders. I think Carson Wentz, for how bad he does, can still do some good. I just think they have more weapons than the Bears do, and I think Justin Fields will just not do enough to win this game for the Bears. I think Carson Wentz is going to make a lot of mistakes, but he'll also put some points up, and I just don't think the Bears are going to put up enough points. And that's just really the end of it. It's going to be a boring game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 17-10 by the end of it, if less than that. Honestly, it might be 14-10.
14-10. All right. Yeah, I'm going with the Bears to win, and obviously there's the pick for the spread. The Bears run the ball really well. Didn't really pan out well against the Vikings, but I think they were kind of letting Justin Fields throw, to be honest. In this game, the Commanders have proven the defense is a problem. I think the Bears will run and get some stuff done. I think there's some locker room problems now with what Ron Rivera said, so I'm going to take the Bears. All right, next one up, Cease. We have the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants. The Ravens are favored by 5, or I guess 6.5 now, or 6 right now against the Giants on the road.
Give me the Ravens to win, but I'll take the points of the Giants. I mean, they're playing very well on both sides of the ball. And, I mean, the Ravens' defense has not looked great. I mean, they've had some good plays at times. They just lost Marcus Williams to a wrist injury, so he'll be out long term, not for the season, but that'll hurt their secondary that's already struggling as well. And I just don't think the Giants are anywhere near the same talent level as this Ravens team, but Brian Dable just coaches them extremely well in a way that shows me that they're going to play this close regardless. So give me the Ravens to win, but I'm taking the points of the Giants.
Yeah, it opened up at 5, this line, so I took the Ravens to cover 5. 6 is a little bit, it gets to the territory where I'm kind of worried about it. But I'm taking the Ravens to win and cover. Lamar's on a tear this season. The Giants are playing good, but again, I'm kind of skeptical of them until they can kind of prove it on a more consistent basis. 4-1 is fine, but that's way more to a season than that. They're coming back from London as well. I think that's a big thing. It's almost as if it's a short week when you have to figure in that plane ride and everything. So I'm going Ravens to win and cover. It's I think going to be a close game for at least 3 quarters, and then they may be able to pull away. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to New Orleans to take on the Saints. The Bengals are favored by 1.5 right now against the Saints. Cease.
Give me the Bengals to win and cover. I think they'll bounce back. They're a better team than the Saints. The Saints offense is put together by a of, I mean, is Jameis Winston going to play? Who is starting? Is it Andy Dalton again? Probably.
Officially hasn't been named, but I think Jameis Winston's questionable now.
Yeah, either way, he's still not very healthy if he does play. And he also makes up a lot of mistakes. So I think the Saints offense is going to struggle really mightily against Bengals defense. I don't know how the crowd's going to react at times because it's Burrow and Jamar Chase. I think that'll play in the Bengals' favor. I don't know if the crowd's going to be as hostile because it's like an LSU homecoming. Obviously, that can only mean so much when you're playing against their team. But I think there's enough goodwill. I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase will be kind of excited to go back to Louisiana. That I think they'll be able to win and cover. I think to get the offense going a little bit, and it's a tough loss against the Ravens, but they should win this game against the Saints. It's harder to win there on the road. It's a hard place to play, but ultimately they have a much better team. I just really hope to God Zach Taylor doesn't mess it up with the play calling.
Oh, that's always a threat to happen. See,
it's always a threat.
The Bengals, I think, are going to win and cover two. As you mentioned, Jameis Winston returned to practice, but it was told like that's part of the process, so they're not giving you much information on that, which they probably shouldn't. I think they'll be ready for Taysom Hill or any of those hijinks that they pull. I think the Bengals defense will be able to just limit what the Saints can do offensively. This is a game where I think they can easily win and cover if they play like they did at like the end of last season. We'll see if they're able to do that. Always afraid of, as you mentioned, Zach Taylor and all that stuff too. So if this is a game you do not win, this is a game that you might be looking back on as maybe the start of the downfall of things at this current point, because going 2-4 is very, very tough to come back from. And if the play calling doesn't get better, then oh my God, fans in the Bengals world are not going to be very happy.
Oh, Bengals Twitter is very unforgiving when it comes to play calling.
They are. Play calling and fumbling footballs late in the game. They don't really like that.
Oh yeah, I hate that.
All right, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Buccaneers are favored by 8 on the road.
Jesus Christ, 8? Okay.
Yep.
Give me the Bucks to win. I'm taking the Steelers with 8 points. I don't think they're going to get blown out that bad. It's another start for Kenny Pickett. Buccaneers not show me anything to deem that they are this good. I think the Steelers have still a decent amount of people on defense. I'm going to take the Steelers to cover that. That's just too many points for them to be playing at Heinz Field.
I'm going Bucks to win and cover. I was very disappointed in the running game for Pittsburgh, and yes, they kind of abandoned it because they were down by so much. But very disappointed in the offensive line play, the running game, and I don't know. In a weird sense, I don't think the Bucks are a Super Bowl contender, but I don't think they can play this poorly for that much longer. It's kind of crazy that they're playing this badly. I think they'll win and cover. I don't think the Steelers are very good, as I mentioned. The defense is good. This is a get Kenny Pickett used to playing in the NFL type of year, and that's all it is. All right, the New England Patriots at the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are favored by 2.5.
Give me the New England Patriots to win. They've been playing very well. Their defense has been playing great. And I think they've been doing enough with, the offense with Billy Zappi or Mac Jones, whoever's back there. I think Billy Zappi honestly might be the answer because they know what he can and can't do instead of expecting Mac Jones to really control this offense. So believe it or not, it might be a blessing that Billy Zappi's in there because there's less expectations and there's more emphasis on the running backs. So I'm gonna go with the upset here and pick the Patriots to win.
I am too. I think this is a lot about the Browns just not being that good overall. I mean, they're very close to being a 1-4 team right now instead of a 2-3 team. I also really did like what I saw from Bailey Zappi. Bill let him throw the ball. He went 17 of 21, 188 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception last week at 8.9 yards per attempt. It's not like he's just dinking and dunking. That's a decent yards per attempt. I like him. I think he might be able to supplant Mac Jones. I'm not even joking when I say that. I think if he plays this week and Mac Jones is out still and does pretty well, this is like a Tom Brady situation. I really do think he can do that. He threw the ball all over the field at Western Kentucky. I think he might be able to do it, Cease. I don't know. We'll have to see because Mac Jones did not look good early in the season, but I like.
You tell me you got a Patriots jersey on and you're a virtual unknown. You're the next Tom Brady.
Oh, I never said that about Jimmy Garoppolo or Jacoby Brissett. I'm saying about Bailey Zappi. He's that guy.
The guy, the next GOAT.
We'll see. But I have the Patriots to win. It's just one of those games. I think the teams may be similar in talent level, and the Patriots will be ready, better game planned, and have better defense. All right, the San Francisco 49ers at the Atlanta Falcons. This one, the line has moved a little bit, but it's 5.5 for the 49ers on the road. Sorry.
Give me 49ers to win, but I will take the Falcons with the points. The 49ers offense just doesn't look great. I think the Falcons have been pretty scrappy so far. It's at home for them. San Francisco has to go a long way to go to Atlanta. So I'm gonna pick them to win still because I think their defense is very good. But Nick Bosa's also banged up. They got some banged up pieces, and I can't trust them to win by a lot with a limited offense. So give me the 49ers to win and Falcons with the points.
I'm going 49ers to win and cover. I think they have a breath of momentum here after seeing the NFC West struggle. I think 49ers get going. Very weird that I'm more confident in the 49ers than you are, but here we are.
No, I'm like, can we get this on recording?
I think Jeff Wilson's running the ball well, and the Falcons are banged up, and the Buccaneers should have put him away. They didn't. That's all right, but I think the 49ers will be able to do it. All right, the New York Jets at the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers favored by 7.5 points.
Give me the Green Bay Packers points. Aaron Rodgers right now. I don't trust this offense to do anything. It's in Lambeau, so that's a lot. But the Jets have a lot of positive momentum. You down right now. Packers are playing.
Yeah, give me the Packers to win, but also the Jets with the points too. As mentioned, they're just not playing. The Packers aren't playing well right now until they figure that out. Until they diversify the offense a little bit. Until Aaron Rodgers and the receivers get on the same page. It's gonna be tough for them to cover a touchdown spread. The Jets have bounced back pretty well. I think they have some confidence going. They've said that, like, I think the young guys kind of believe in themselves now, kind of think they're actually kind of good. Sauce Gardner will make things tough, and I think the Jets would take the Jets with the points, but take the Packers to win. All right, next one up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts favored by 2, even though these teams have already played once and the Jaguars won.
I think it's gonna. I'm gonna pick the Jaguars to win and cover. I think the Colts just seem anemic. Like Matt Ryan looks terrible. The Jaguars don't look great after that last game, but they seem to have their number last time in Jacksonville. And honestly, at this point, I feel like the Colts are afraid of the Jaguars in some respects. Like, I don't understand why. They just seem to not be able to beat them in Jacksonville. And, I feel like this is just snowballing to some kind of that they don't believe in themselves anymore. And as childish as that seems, your perception is reality. So I think the Jaguars managed to win it because they're better than the Colts by any means. It's just the Colts just look like they have no direction. They have no poise. Matt Ryan looks like he aged 10 years in a season. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm going Colts to win and cover in this one. I think this is just one of those weird things where the Colts just have that mental block when they play in Jacksonville, and they usually do okay at home. I think this game will be good. I mean, they had the Thursday game last week, so they've had a little mini bye. Time to get things right, time to get a little bit healthier. Jonathan Taylor will probably play in this game. I think they'll establish the run and probably win the game. I think that hot start for the Jaguars is starting to cool off. I don't think they're the worst team in the league as they were last year, but I don't think they're quite as good as maybe we thought they were maybe a week or two ago. All right, Minnesota Vikings at the Miami Dolphins. The Vikings are favored by 3.5. Awaiting news about Teddy Bridgewater. Tua is apparently not going to play this weekend.
Yeah, even if Teddy plays right now with what's going on, I'm going to pick the Vikings because I think they're rolling on offense with Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson. I think they got a lot of great pieces there. I believe it's an early game, so Cousins shouldn't have any issues. And honestly, it should be decent weather in Miami this time of year. It shouldn't be too blazing hot in October like this. So yeah, I'm picking the Vikings. I think they've been rolling on offense. I think they got enough on defense to stop Teddy Bridgewater. And Tyreek Hill's also in a walking boot, as of Sunday. So he's questionable as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of key pieces for this Dolphins passing attack that are just not there, and that's going to be hard to make up for against a high-powered offense of Kirk Cousins. I can't even complete that sentence without, having to pause for a minute. But, yeah, Vikings look really good so far.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier I'm a big fan of Kevin O'Connell, their head coach. I think he's doing a good job. The offense looks good. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in football this season. You can argue with anyone you want, whether someone's more talented overall or just their careers, whatever. But he's been really, really good. I think that's going to be huge. And I will say, if it's Skylar Thompson playing, or if you think Skylar Thompson might play, go run to the casino and make this bet right now. 3.5 points is not good enough for that. Teddy Bridgewater, could I see them keeping it close? Could I see them winning the game for the Dolphins, that is? Yes, but I think I'd still take the Vikings to win and cover the spread. So I'm going to go Vikings. Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. The Cardinals are favored by 2.5 points, or 3 points now on the road. An interesting little schedule note about this one. Major League Baseball playoffs, the Mariners are in the playoffs right now. So if their game goes, or if they go to a game 3 in their series, this game will be pushed back to 5:30 this Sunday. So just keep that in mind. We're going to have football literally from 9 a.m. or no 9 a.m. Yeah, no 9 a.m. game this year, but this week. But we're gonna have football from 1 all the way through the whole night because this game will probably start at 5:30.
Love to see it. More football, the better. But I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. I think they're more talented. Will that mean anything with the way Kyler Murray's been playing at times? I don't know, but I just think they're a better team overall. I think losing Rashad Penny is a huge blow to what the Seahawks are trying to accomplish. I think that'll be tough for Geno Smith and company to overrule. And if anything, the cornerbacks for the Cardinals are one of, their secondary is one of their strengths, really. So ultimately, I think they're going to be able to contain DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to a good amount. Without Rashad Penny, obviously they have the rookie, in his starting debut, Kenneth Walker, but I just don't think they'll be able to keep up with him. So I'm taking the Cardinals to cover.
Give me the comeback player of the year and the upset here. Let's do it. I mean, Geno Smith is throwing the ball very well. I'm not impressed at all with the Cardinals. They got some banged up running backs too. Give me the Seahawks. I think this is in Seattle. This is a game. It just seems like they're going to win.
After being your wild card team so quickly.
Well, the things change. I mean, if we could do predictions after week 1, I think things would be a lot different every single year. Things just change. All right, the Panthers at the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are favored by 10 points. Keep in mind that Baker Mayfield is out for this game, and Matt Rule has been fired. Whether that's good or bad for the team, I don't know.
So is Matt Barkley starting? Not Matt Barkley. Sam Darnold starting?
P.J. Walker.
Ooh. Yeah. Give me the Rams to win and cover. You know what? I get, the Rams might they might light a fire on the Panthers because Matt Rule's gone. But now with P.J. Walker starting, that's a lot to be interim head coach and then dealing with your backup quarterback for his first start again. Obviously, he's played before. He started the XFL as well. But I just don't like those odds. And I think the Rams are struggling, but they have a lot of talent. And this could be a game where they kind of coast. So I'm going to pick them I'm going to pick the Rams to win and cover that big spread. Doesn't make me happy it's 10 points, but there's the whole lighting the fire question. I just don't it with the backup quarterback it being that close.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams to win and cover as well. I don't know. I don't think P.J. Walker's that good. I don't know if they'll be able to get the ball to their playmakers. I think this is the perfect medicine that the Rams need to have. They need to have a game like this where they can just go out and kind of play loose and get a win. So I'm going to go Rams to win and cover. We have a rematch of that very good AFC playoff game last year. The Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Buffalo Bills are actually favored by 2.5 points on the road.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, they look like the much better team so far in the season. The Chiefs have won some games, but they've struggled. Like, they haven't won convincingly a lot of times. Offense, without Travis Kelce, it gets questionable sometimes how they're going to do. And the defense still, their biggest problem is, they get gashed in the run still. And, I mean, they can't – their pass defense in the secondary is still not good. There's just too many weapons for Buffalo. Buffalo's angry. Buffalo, they do have not forgotten for the second in the AFC divisional round. They straight up are going to show everyone that they are better than the Chiefs. They are the front runner. There's no question in their mind that they are the ones that are Super Bowl favorites. They are going to pour it on. City in Arrowhead. I think they win by a touchdown.
I'm going Bills to win and cover too. You're right. They're the much better team this year so far. The Chiefs winning games, but the Bills are blowing teams out. I think they're going to want it more. I think this is kind of like a statement game. I wish it was a primetime game, and maybe I wish, like, in the future we can flex things out, make this the Monday night game in place of the one we're going to have. But either way, the Bills are going to win and cover. All right, Sunday Night Football, Cease. We have the Cowboys at the Eagles. Two very good teams so far this season. The Eagles are at home, and they are favored by 6 points.
I love this game. I'm super excited for it. I'm picking the Eagles to win, but I'm taking the Cowboys with the points. I think the defense is going to live a lot. I just think, the Eagles aren't slouches on defense by any means either. This is going to be more of a game. I feel like the Cowboys are going to have to score a good amount more points. I think this is going to be the toughest test so far this season, and with a backup who's played very well, don't get me wrong, I got to edge it out to the Eagles team that has a dual threat quarterback that can maybe escape the pocket a little more on Micah Parsons and maybe expose the secondary by giving them a little bit more time, to get downfield as they're his receivers. So give me the Eagles win, but I think it's going to be a really close game.
Yeah, I do too. Give me the Cowboys overall with the points, both here. Like I said, I think the Eagles need to be commended for their great start, but I'm kind of questioning how good are the teams they've beaten. The Vikings would be the one team that are like 4-1. You're like, yeah, they beat a good team there. But I think the Cowboys' defense is just different. I think having a guy like Micah Parsons who can go chase down Jalen Hurts in that running game, I think that's going to be huge. I mean, he's only thrown 4 passing touchdowns all year. They are a team that wants to run the ball, whether with Jalen Hurts or Miles Sanders. It's nice that they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside, and they've had some good games too. But I think the Cowboys might have what it takes to stop this weird running attack where Jalen Hurts is like the most efficient quarterback runner of all time, even though he's not really he's a good runner, but he's not the fastest guy out there. He's not Mike Vick or Lamar Jackson. He's not like an elusive guy who can kind of juke, but he's a tough runner. He runs. He's not like the most powerful like Cam Newton, but he runs tough. He runs decently fast. It's kind of a mixture of all of it. So it's definitely weird to me, but I think the Cowboys can win this game on the road. I think, like you said, it's going to be very, very close. This will be the Eagles. Another big test for them after the Vikings game as well. So I'll go Cowboys. All right, the next one up is Monday Night Football, Cease. We have the Broncos on primetime again. This should be really fun. At the Chargers. Chargers are favored by 4.5 points.
Chargers should be favored by 1 billion. Give me the Chargers to win and cover. Way better team. I mean, the defense is bad. They're not slouches by any means, but a lot of pieces on the Chargers offense still. And, I mean, the Broncos offense just is anemic at times. So can't trust them. They lost their running back in Javonte Williams. Give me the Chargers all day to win and cover this one.
Yeah, me too. Chargers win and cover. I haven't seen anything from the Broncos that would make you think they could win this game. They could keep it close. The only thing I can think of that we haven't even seen from them is just that they have extra time off being a Thursday game last week. And, I mean, even an extra time off because of the Monday game, too, for this week. But other than that, there's nothing. Like, they're not getting the ball moving on offense. The defense is okay. But the Chargers are a team that I think we talked about. Like, yeah, the Super Bowl stuff might be a little bit too far-fetched, especially with the injuries they've suffered already. But if they can't beat the Broncos by at least 5 points, then I don't know where we're going with this team this year. All right, Cease, any final thoughts for the week?
No, I'm just super excited. 2 great games. The 4:00 Bills Chiefs game, and then obviously the Cowboys Eagles game are going to be great matchups. I'm just excited for another week of great football, minus Monday and Thursday night.
I am too. Still watch the games. Hopefully something crazy will happen. I don't know. But yeah, I'm excited for the football this weekend. I think there's a lot of good matchups. I think we're starting to find out more about these teams, but I will say the more we seem to learn, the less we know, which is just crazy because most years I think you kind of get a good gauge on things. But yeah, I'm here. My job now to remind everyone to like, subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, rate us, give us a review, tell us what, go tell us we're awful, whatever you need to do. For now, thanks for listening. We'll see everyone next week.
Thanks, guys.